In the ceremonial ground of the palace, thick with the scent of incense, the Minister of Rites of the Grey Key presided over the funeral ceremony for the Empress Shangwen. Officials stood in solemn rows, dressed in white mourning robes, while outside, crowds of commoners filled the streets, their heads bowed in sorrow. Empress Shangwen Li Jun had always been known as a weak ruler who loved parties more than politics. But Grand Emperor Jingxuan and Empress Dowager Xianrong adored her deeply and spoiled their youngest daughter. Her 3 older sisters had been married off to foreign kingdoms, leaving Li Jun the only princess still living in the imperial palace. When Emperor Jingxuan grew old, he chose Li Jun to take his place. She became the next ruler, despite many opposing the idea of a woman taking the throne. The news of Li Jun's death shocked everyone. Many people became worried because Great Qi no longer had a clear heir to the throne. Some ambitious factions started to think about rebelling, especially those who never agreed with having a woman as the ruler from the very beginning. The court was filled with fear and uncertainty about the future. Attending their daughter's funeral, the Grand Emperor and Empress Dowager were devastated. Their faces were pale with grief as they said their final goodbyes to their beloved child. The Grand Emperor, who rarely showed emotion, could not hold back his tears, while the Empress Dowager clutched her daughter's belongings tightly and wept hysterically. Just as the ceremonial bell rang, and the monks began to chant, a sudden gust of wind swept through the air. The overcast sky turned pitch black in an instant, as if day had become night. Then, as the wind died down, a new and more chilling sound echoed through the hall. A soft sound. All eyes turned to the casket, in the center of the altar. A pale hand slowly crept over the coffin's edge. Everyone screamed in terror. The scream was unanimous. A monk hurled his prayer beads in the air and bolted for safety. A minister clutched his wooden memorial tablet, his face pale as a sheet, then promptly fainted, landing with a soft thud. Others stumbled and tripped over each other in their blind panic, scattering like startled chickens. The coffin creaked as it shifted. Then, slowly Li Jun sat up. Her long black hair spilled over her shoulders like ink. She looked around with sleepy eyes, yawned, stretched, and smiled as though she had just awakened from a long sleep. It was a peaceful smile, completely unaware of just how terrifying this moment was for everyone around her.
Hello!
She greeted cheerfully, as if welcoming guests to one of her banquets. The hall erupted into chaos.
Demon! Demon!
Officials shrieked in terror. Some fell to the ground, others scrambled to escape.
Someone fetches the exorcist!
Amid the panic and chaos, the Empress Dowager and Grand Emperor rushed toward the coffin. Li Jun blinked, her gaze locking onto the elegant, tear-streaked woman who approached with trembling steps. Though she had no memories of this life, a strange familiarity inside her stirred. This woman, she must be her mother. And the tall, majestic figure in the golden dragon robe could only be her father.
Father, mother,
She murmured. They have extraordinary appearance. Li Jun couldn't wait to find a mirror and see what she herself looked like. Her voice broke as she reached out, her trembling fingers brushing against the hands of the Empress Dowager and Grand Emperor. Hong Yi, her maid, immediately bowed to Li Jun and summoned the imperial physician. But Li Jun held up a hand casually.
no need, I'm perfectly healthy.
And then Li Jun climbed out of her coffin with Hong Yi's help. She straightened her sleeves, flashed a dazzling smile at the stunned crowd, and gave them a light-hearted wave.
Everyone, your Empress have returned.
Silence. Then, The officials glanced at each other in confusion. None of them dared to speak first. Their eyes shifted to the Grand Emperor and the Empress Dowager, who showed no fear. Maybe it really was true. Li Jun had returned from the dead.
Long live your majesty!
The officials, dumbfounded, dropped to their knees, one by one. Still shaking in fear, their voices echoed throughout the palace, signaling the return of the ruler of Great Qi.
Rise!
Li Jun said, standing tall with confidence before the gathered officials. Outside the palace, soldiers mounted their horses and galloped through the streets, announcing the shocking news.
The Empress Shangwan has awakened from death! Her Majesty lives!
The commoners fell to their knees, their heads bowed in awe and reverence. The air trembled with their deafening chant.
Long live your majesty! May your majesty live 1,000 years!
The Empress Dowager gasped, covering her mouth with trembling fingers as fresh tears poured down her cheeks. In the next moment, her parents pulled her into a tight embrace, holding her as if afraid she might vanish again. Their warmth wrapped around her like a shield, something she had never felt in her previous life as Li Jun. She wondered if her parents in that life had grieved for her death this deeply. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some whispered that the Empress had made a pact with demons, returning from the dead to seek revenge. Others speculated that she was a cruel, blood-drinking demon, and that the poison had never truly harmed her. Yet, despite their fear and frantic gossip, no one dared to speak too loudly. Her parents were relieved to see their daughter looking healthy and full of energy. The Grand Emperor laughed and said that Li Jun was truly a child, blessed with great fortune. Then, with a warm smile, he told Hong Yi to quickly escort her back to Yangshu Palace so she could rest. As they walked through the grand halls, Li Jun's eyes wandered over the breathtaking beauty of the palace. The towering pillars carved with dragons, the sunlight streaming through intricately designed wooden windows, casting delicate patterns on the polished marble floor. A faint breeze carrying the subtle scent of sandalwood and fresh tea. This majestic place, all of it, belonged to her now. Halfway down the corridor, Li Jun paused. A beautiful woman leaped gracefully across the palace rooftops. Her long robe fluttering behind her like gossamer wings, as if she were dancing on air. She landed without a sound, right in front of the Empress. Li Jun stared, momentarily dazed by the sight, her heart skipping a beat.
Long live your majesty,
the woman said, dropping to one knee with her head bowed. Li Jun tilted her head slightly, her gaze drifting slowly from the woman's boots to her face. The intense stare made Shen Yuqing shift nervously. She couldn't help but wonder if something was wrong with the Empress. Li Jun leaned toward Hong Yi and whispered.
Who is she?
Hong Yi lowered her head slightly.
Replying to your majesty, she is Commander Shen, your shadow guard, and a relative of the Empress Dowager.
Li Jun's lips curved into a lazy smile as she stepped forward. Slowly, she reached out her hand and helped Shen Yuqing to her feet. The gesture stunned the woman. As far as she could remember, Li Jun had never liked her. If not for the Empress Dowager's favor, Shen Yuqing might have been executed long ago for her sharp tongue in criticizing the Empress.
report your majesty. The person who poisoned you has been captured and will be punished.
Shen Yuqing said, lowering her head once more. Li Jun gave a small nod.
Very good. Thank you for your hard work. Let's return to Yangshu Palace. I want to bathe and change. These funeral robes feel inauspicious,
she said over her shoulder. When they arrived at Yangshu Palace, everything was already prepared. The imperial maids had filled the bathing pool with scattered delicate flower petals across the surface. The soft scent of sandalwood incense drifted through the air, calming and familiar. Li Jun stepped into the water and closed her eyes, letting the warmth wrap around her tired body. A sense of calm washed over her. The tension in her muscles eased, leaving her refreshed. A smile curved her lips. Coming to Great Key. Maybe it really was the best choice. Her family from the other universe flashed through her mind. Since childhood, she had everything except love. Maybe they wouldn't even miss her. She shook her head, not wanting to think about it anymore. After the bath, Li Jun stood in front of the tall bronze mirror, naked. Her hair still damp. Her high-pitched scream echoed through Yungshu Palace. A flock of birds scattered from the roof, teacup cracked in the hands of a passing maid. One poor eunuch tripped over his own robes in shock. Hong Yi rushed in, nearly slipping.
Your Majesty, what's wrong?
Li Jun pointed at her reflection with sheer horror.
This is not my face. These are steam buns.
She grabbing her chubby cheeks with both hands and squishing them in disbelief. She glanced down and poked at her belly, her fingers sinking into the soft flesh.
There's fat everywhere. Look at this!
She whispered in despair, then slapped her thighs. Behind Hong Yi, Shen Yuqing stood silently. The corner of her lips twitched, her usually stern face betraying the faintest curve. She quickly cleared her throat and looked away, biting the inside of her cheek to keep from smiling. Hong Yi let out a long sigh, pressing a hand to her chest. For a moment, she thought an assassin had snuck into the bathing hall. After all, the former Li Jun had been known as a legendary foodie, a pampered little piglet wrapped in silk robes. It was no surprise her body now carried soft royal flesh in generous layers.
Your Majesty, please get dressed first, lest the dragon body catch a cold.
Hong Yi said. At her signal, several maids stepped forward, their arms full of layered silk robes and embroidered garments. The colorful, majestic robe was spread out. It could blind a phoenix, and its length rivaled the red carpet at the Oscars. Li Jun recoiled in horror.
No, I don't want to wear this.
The robe shimmered with bright reds, greens, purples, and golden thread, catching the light like a festival lantern gone wild. Hong Yi blinked.
This is your favorite robe, Your Majesty.
Find me a simple robe.
She groaned, rubbing her temples.
This is too much. Too excessive. What kind of taste did I have before? Was I colorblind?
The maids bowed quickly and hurried out. After trying on robe after robe from the imperial wardrobe, Li Jun finally threw her hands in the air.
Enough. Just give me training robes. Do I have it?
Moments later, she stood in front of the mirror, dressed in a dark riding outfit. It was well-fitted, clean, and simple. For the first time that morning, she exhaled in relief. Hong Yi stepped forward, carefully brushing Li Chen's long, black hair.
Shall we place the phoenix crown, Your Majesty?
She asked. The towering gold-encrusted headpiece was lifted from its case. Li Jun took one horrified step back.
Absolutely not. That thing could break my neck.
With a firm shake of her head, she pointed to a much smaller accessory.
Make it simple. Just tie it up.
In the end, her hair was gathered into a high ponytail, secured with a gold hairpin and a small crown. She sat quietly in front of dressing table, eyes closed as Hong Yi carefully fixed her hair. When Hong Yi finally finished, she stepped back and said softly,
Your Majesty, it's done.
Li Jun opened her eyes, then immediately screamed. Hong Yi jumped in shock, nearly knocking over a tray of hairpins. Two eunuchs and the palace maids quickly lowered their heads to the floor, afraid to breathe. Hong Yi dropped to her knees, pale and trembling.
Mercy, Your Majesty.
She cried. She thought Li Jun was offended by how her hair had been styled. Li Jun waved her hand dismissively. It wasn't Hong Yi's fault. Every time she looked in the mirror, she was startled by her own face. It was still the same as before, yet the addition of 2 steamed buns on her cheeks made her feel uncomfortable.
I can't live like this,
she muttered.
We start today. Get up. Bring me writing tools. I need to make a diet list. Starting now, I'll rebuild my body.
She turned to Hong Yi, who still knelt nervously on the floor. Hong Yi scrambled to obey, setting down paper as Li Jun began to pace the room like a general planning war.
Write this down. Li Jun's imperial fat-burning plan. Morning, 1 bowl of warm millet porridge, no sugar. Half a salted egg, steamed sliced lotus root. 1 cup of plain tea. Midday meal, steamed white fish with ginger, stir-fried greens with garlic, little oil. No dessert. Rice. Evening, clear soup with tofu and winter melon. A handful of goji berries. Herbal tea for digestion. No rice after sunset. Snacks limited to once a day. 1 boiled quail egg. Roasted chestnuts. Fresh fruit.
From the doorway, Shen Yuqing watched quietly as Li Jun adjusted the sash of her training robe, her cheeks still slightly puffed in frustration. Her hair was tied in a high ponytail, a small crown resting atop her head, simple yet charming. Shen Yuqing smiled. A strange, sudden urge rose within her. She wanted to pinch those soft cheeks. This Li Jun looked like a spoiled child who had just lost her favorite snack. A complete contrast to the aloof and emotionless Empress she once knew. Li Jun turned her head and saw Shen Yuqing staring at her. She looked a bit lost in thought, which made her feel a little shy. Li Jun was a romantic girl at heart, even if in her modern life she had a reputation as a lady killer. When a beautiful woman appeared before her, she couldn't resist the urge to flirt. She rested her chin on her hand and looked at Shen Yuqing again. This time, their eyes met and for a moment, it felt like a small spark passed between them. The other girl quickly looked away, a faint blush creeping up her cheeks. Li Jun raised an eyebrow, a lazy smile tugging at the corner of her lips.